Hey guys, what's going on? Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Thought I'd share my thoughts really quickly on who I think is going to win on tonight's main card. I don't watch prelims. If that's your thing, find another channel. But I'm a hardcore casual at heart. I'm only watching the big fights, and I really only care about the heavier weight divisions. So, midget lovers, women's fights. I'm not your guy. But let me not ramble, which I often do. So, first fight on the card, Justice Hooney versus Frazier Clark. I think that's going to be a great fight. I think it's going to be technical, but it has the potential to catch fireworks, especially if Frazier shows up in shape, ready to go. He looked good at the weigh-ins, to be fair to him. So he looks like he's in really good shape. Justice Hooney, to me, is one of the most underrated fighters in the heavyweight division. And that's, people say it's because of his power. I think it's really just because he can't take a shot. I mean, you have the video of him getting knocked out in sparring by some guy who looked like a cruiserweight. Kevin Lorena gave him a lot of problems, an ex-cruiserweight who came up to heavyweight recently. But to be fair, Kevin Lorena gave Daniel Dubois some problems too. So, that's not a bad win. But there's this air of vulnerability, especially after he suffered that devastating loss to Fabio Wortley in a fight that he was winning handily. And it says a lot about the industry. Like, Hooney is definitely in that who needs him club. He's got all the tools, except he's not a prolific puncher, and there seems to be some issues with the chin. But he's got all the tools. Got great jab. He switches the punches up very well. Got a good 1-2. Sometimes, he'll change it up and he'll throw a 21, where you're throwing your backhand first and following it up with the jab. Great combination, underrated combination, in my opinion. Good hook, good uppercuts, good head movement. He has everything you want in a fighter. I just worry about his ability to take a shot. That being said, though, I think Frazier Clark is just too long in the tooth. Even though he's not that old, he has taken a lot of wear and tear, a lot of damage from being a high-level amateur, sparring AJ, sparring Joe Joyce, all the different guys on that GB Olympic squad. He maybe gave his best years in the amateurs, and so you're starting to see him slow down. He didn't look good against Jamie TKV, in my opinion. He looked very slow, very cumbersome, and he looked, a bit out of shape. So we'll see if the conditioning improves, because if he comes up in shape, it could be a very, very interesting fight. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I'm going to go ahead and pick Justice Hooney. I just think he's younger. I think he's fresher. I think he's taking less damage. I know people are saying, well, he just got knocked out in his last fight. That's not what really causes severe damage. It's the accumulative effect of just taking punches over years. And I haven't seen Hooney in any real wars. The Wortley fight wasn't a war. It was one-sided, and then Fabio threw a lucky punch, landed a punch from the gods, and the referee, in my opinion, gave a disgracefully quick count for Hooney and didn't even give him a chance to try and survive the round and win the fight, because we know where the money's at. So it is what it is on that front, but I'm gonna go with Hooney. I think he's just fresher. I think they're both technically very sound, but I think Hooney is a little bit more creative. But it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to that fight. Moving on, Jamie TKV versus Richard Riakporhe. This is, again, another interesting fight between two guys who aren't prospects anymore. I mean, Richard Riakporhe, I believe he's like 35, 36, so he's an old head. He's older than me. So Richard Riakporhe and Jamie TKB, they've been around for a while, but neither one of them has really had that big fight yet that's captured the public's imagination. But they have been in there with some decent guys, Riakporhe, he split 2 fights with Chris Billum Smith. That last fight, he looked terrible. Personally, I always felt he was injured because in between rounds in the second CBS fight, Riakporhe was sitting on kind of like a stool, a high chair, almost like a bar stool. So I don't know if he had an issue with his back or something, but he looked terrible in that fight. And when I've seen him at heavyweight, I haven't been impressed with the way he's performed. To me, he's very kind of stiff. I think he carries way too much muscle. He, in my opinion, is who AJ detractors say AJ is. A big, stiff, kind of robotic, kind of basic Frank Bruno copy, To me, that's Richard Riakporhe. I haven't been impressed with him. I mean, he looks the part. He's good looking, tall, dark, and handsome. Madonna loves him, whatever that means. I mean, that old fossil's got to be like 75 years old. But I mean, hey, that's some vintage pussy. Vintage pussy. I can't even say it. But yeah, man. I mean, I don't really rate Richard Riakporhe that highly. I think he's okay. But to me, I think Jamie TKV, even though he doesn't look the part at all, I mean, the juxtaposition of their physiques is going to almost be comical. It'll be like AJ, Andy Ruiz, and one guy looks like he's carved out of marble, and another guy who looks like he eats Wendy's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But if you know anything about boxing, you know that looks and aesthetics don't win fights. Mr. Olympia would get his head bounced off the canvas like a basketball if he hopped in the ring with a welterweight. So looks don't win fights. Jamie TKV may not look the part, but I think he's a clever boxer. He's got a good jab, really good jab. He knows how to stay safe. Beat Fraser Clark, which was a good, solid win, And I think he knows how to handle himself. He's been in there sparring, really good guys. He's part of the Ben Davison camp. So I don't think any of the heavyweights there spar each other. When AJ was there, I don't think he sparred like a Talma and TKV. But I think just being in that environment, you're gonna pick up habits. You're gonna pick up ideas, different training methods, and I think it showed. Like he's a very solid fighter who just knows how to handle himself. And so I think TKV is going to win on points. And for my previous prediction, I think Hooney is going to win on points as well. So I have Hooney winning on points, and I have TKV winning on points. Now to the co-main, Conor Benn, a.k.a. The mini Dennis Rodman, the pint-sized Dennis Rodman, as Simon Jordan referred to him, versus Regis Prograis. Conor Benn is an interesting character. He's definitely not the most likable person. There's a lot of contradictions with him, especially when it comes to weight stipulations. He's definitely a rules for thee, but not for me kind of guy. He wants to put fighters who are bigger than him on rehydration clauses, but he's all about catch weights and no rehydration clauses when he's fighting a smaller man, So I'm not a fan of that. It says a lot about your mentality as a fighter when you want to have all the advantages and you don't want the fight to be 50-50 and just straight up you want to have every single advantage that you can have. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of guys who weaponize weight, and that's definitely Conor Benn. However, that being said, I do think he has some talent, and I do think he's a hard-working guy. I don't think you can doubt that. Like he always comes in shape. He always comes prepared, and he does put in the work. You know, there are some silver spoons who work hard. That's just the reality. We can't just hate on the guy because he had a lot of money and he had a rich dad, because there are plenty of rich kids who don't do shit, right? They don't do shit. They just go out and party and get high and fly all over the world, and the only careers they're interested in is social media or some bullshit fashion or whatever. Like, they don't really want to work. But Conor Benn, to me, seems like a guy with a strong work ethic, and I respect that about him. And I think he has some skill. You know, I've seen a lot of commentators saying that Regis Prograis has more technical boxing ability than Conor Benn. I just want to know what kind of film they've been watching. I mean, if throwing windmill haymakers like Regis Prograis was doing against Jack Catterall, or getting absolutely schooled by Devin Haney, you know, is demonstrating a lot of skill, then okay. You know, I think Regis Prograis has world level heart. He doesn't quit. You know, he's definitely a tough dude. He's from New Orleans, and he grew up in the, you know, Hurricane Katrina generation. So you got to respect the guy's toughness. He's experienced. He's been in there with world level guys, you know, Haney, Jack Catterall, Josh Taylor, but he's lost to all those guys. And in my opinion, even though he hasn't proved it yet, I do think Conor Benn is world class. I know a lot of people don't like him. I'm not the biggest fan of his personality, as I just stated, but I do think he's world class, and I expect him to be in a mix at 147 for sure. I think he's too small for 154. Those guys are too big, they're too strong, and they're too skilled. But I do think he'll be in the mix at 147, and I expect him to win a belt at some point. I mean, Rolly Romero and Ryan Garcia are champions at 147. I think that Conor Benn can definitely beat both of those guys. So my money's going to be on Benn. Because he's coming down in weight, though, I don't think it'll be an explosive knockout. I think it'll be a good performance. He might have some moments of adversity. We just don't know how he's going to hold up having to lose that much weight in a short period of time. He didn't look great on the scales. He looked weight drained. You know, his face was sunken in. He didn't look healthy, you know. So that weight cut was definitely hard on him. I mean, I think he's 30 now. And listen, man, I'm 32. And so when you cross that Rubicon into your 30s, you'll be surprised, man. Just random parts of your body just start to hurt. It gets harder and harder to train. I got a whole yoga mat and foam roller in my apartment now, and I have to do a whole routine at night just so I can feel healthy enough and strong enough and fresh enough to work out in the morning, you know. So you can definitely see that age is starting to become a factor. That's always a factor with the lower weights, because they have to cut so much. But even with all that, you know, all that notwithstanding, I do think he's going to pull it off. But I think it'll be a unanimous decision. So I'm not expecting a lot of knockouts. I'm expecting, you know, some UDs. But I think they'll be good fights. But now moving on to the main event. Tyson Fury versus Arslanbek Makhmudov. People know how I feel about Tyson Fury. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I think he, as of right now, because he's been inactive, I mean, I would probably still put him in the top 5. I don't think you can say he's the second best heavyweight in the world right now when you have Atalma, Wardley, Dubois, Caballel, and Hrgovic still out there, you know. And we can't keep doing this thing that Tyson Fury fans do where they make him the best heavyweight in the world and declare him to be better than a bunch of guys he's never fought and never beaten. We can't keep doing that with Tyson Fury. So if he wants to still be recognized as one of the best, he actually has to go and fight these guys, and he hasn't done that. You know, he fought Usyk, but he had to be dragged into the ring kicking and screaming and paid over $100 million to do it. And he lost. And it's debatable whether or not he gave Usyk his toughest fight. He had the best 5-minute stretch anybody's had against Usyk, but I don't know if he gave him the toughest fight, you know. But that being said, Tyson Fury, to me, is the favorite in this fight. You know, he has one of the best jabs in the business. And even though it's not a hard jab, it's fast, it's awkward. He throws it from weird angles. He can throw it from a high guard. He can throw it with his hands down. He can hook off the jab. You know, he can throw a good up jab. He can jab to the body. Like, he's very creative with his jab, you know, very intelligent jab. And that's what I expect him to do. Makhmudov is strong. He can punch. But he's just too predictable. His feet are too slow. He doesn't move his head. He doesn't have a good guard. It's not like he's, you know, some Winky Wright character who, okay, maybe he doesn't have all the head movement, but he knows how to block. He knows how to parry. He can catch punches. You know, I don't see that from Makhmudov. Very much a straight up and down fighter, just a big, strong dude who can punch, you know. People are saying his gas tank has improved. I don't know if you can say that just based off a Dave Allen fight, right? Dave Allen is a boxer who doesn't throw punches. He throws like 2 punches around. And then he's like, oh, mate, you know, I didn't train. I was just at home eating pizza, watching Netflix and stuff. And I don't know. Dave Allen gets on my nerves, you know. But I don't know if we can gauge Makhmudov's gas tank off of his performance against Dave Allen. I think we need to see more to know if he really has a good gas tank or not. But I just think Tyson Fury is just going to be too much for him, you know, too much for him. But we'll see. We'll see. Tyson Fury's getting old. He's slowing down. And one thing I'll say about Fury, he's cheated the game in a lot of ways when it comes to not taking care of his body, when it comes to not eating right, having these long layoffs where he gains all this weight and then has to have a fat camp before every training camp. Eventually, that's going to catch up to you. So if Tyson Fury can't use his legs, you know, because that was basically his best attribute, you know, along with his jab, is the fact that he was able to move so well. You know, a lot of these heavyweights today, they're flat-footed, so they can't move with Tyson. And Tyson's just too fast, too tricky, especially when he was in his prime, like when we saw him fight Klitschko. So if Tyson Fury can't move, then we might have an issue on our hands. Because, again, Makhmudov can punch, but you got to stand right in front of him to do that, as we saw in the Caballero fight. Caballero never stood in front of him until he knew he was hurt. That's when Caballero let the shots go. So we'll see. But, again, I expect Fury to win on decision. You know, if Makhmudov wins, I don't think it's going to be a situation where he just catches Fury and knocks him out. I think it's going to be a situation where Tyson Fury's reflexes have just completely failed him. And his legs have totally betrayed him. And he's a sitting duck. And I think Makhmudov would beat him up and stop him late. So that is a possibility. But I would say it's maybe 70-30 in favor of Fury. You know, there's a possibility that Makhmudov could win, but I just think Tyson's just too skilled, too clever, and we'll outpoint him. But we'll see, man. I'm going to go get some food, guys. I just wanted to share my thoughts with you all. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Again, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. It's free. Thank you.